Vietnam is located in the center of Southeast Asia with a land area of 331,689 square kilometers. It is bordered by China to the north, Laos and Cambodia to the west, the East Sea and Pacific Ocean to the east and the south, and has a beautiful 3,260 kilometers long coastline. It is an ideal position for the development of the economy in general and trade and tourism in particular. Three-quarters of the country consists of mountains and tropical forests, and the plains are the most densely populated areas. The two rice-rich areas are Red River Delta in the north and the Mekong River Delta in the south. Hanoi in the north is the capital of the country. Da Nang in the center of Vietnam is the third largest city and an important seaport, and Ho Chi Minh City in the south is the largest commercial city of Vietnam. Vietnam is located in both tropical and temperate zones. The climate is tropical in southern and central Vietnam with a wet and dry season, and warm and humid weather all year round. In the north, there are four seasons with a distinct winter. The whole country is affected by a strong monsoon influence with a considerable amount of sunshine and high rate of rainfall and humidity. Vietnam has considerable energy resources such as oil, gas, coal, and its 41,000 kilometers long waterways provide the basis for hydropower. The country is very rich in minerals. Additionally, Vietnam has a considerable fresh and saltwater fauna, dense tropical forestry resources, and it possesses great agricultural potential. Vietnam's population was estimated at approximately 92.7 million in 2016, with an annual growth rate of 1.6%. The mean population density is 254 people per square kilometer. There are 54 ethnic groups, of which the largest are Kinh, comprising 85% of the population. The rest is Tây, Thai, Mương, Chinese, and Khmer. Vietnam is the country with 67% of the population at the working age, 24% before and 8.6% after working age. Vietnam employees respond to challenges well and fast. They are very committed to develop the country, themselves, and the firms they are working for. Professionals are normally able to conduct business in at least one foreign language. With the importance of English growing continuously, Vietnam also has a talent pool of senior professionals who graduated at leading universities in the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. With the emergence of business opportunities in neighboring Laos and Cambodia, the recent trend is to attract senior executives to Vietnam to head the Mekong practice in their respective company. Vietnamese government considers the development of human capital very important. Literacy rate at 90% and the percentage of girls attending schools are very high. In 2006-2007, more than 16 million pupils attended primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary schools. The national average of graduates from upper secondary schools is 93%. At the same time, close to 1 million students attended to 253 public universities and colleges, and 210,000 were enrolled in the 46 non-public institutions. In comparison, in 2000, there were only 800,000 students in the public and only 100,000 students in the non-public universities and colleges. While the education system has not been able to keep fully abreast with the demands of the rapidly growing and changing economy, Vietnam can also benefit from opportunities to send students abroad on generous scholarship terms, and there, education reforms are planned. In addition, it is worth to note that more and more wealthy parents send their children abroad for education. Vietnam is the socialist country operating under the leadership of the Communist Party. The Nationwide Congress of Vietnam's Communist Party is held every 5 years, determining the country's orientation and strategies and adopting its chief policies on solutions for socio-economic development. The National Assembly is the highest lawmaking body in the country. It comprises delegates who are elected for a 5-year term from various strata, people, and different ethnic groups from all around the country. The Standing Committee of the National Assembly is the permanent executive body of the National Assembly. Its principal functions are the interpretation of the constitutions, laws, and ordinances, the control of their implementation, of the supervision of the activity of the government, the Supreme People's Court, and Supreme People's Procuracy. The President, as the head of state, is elected by the National Assembly from its members to represent Vietnam in domestic and foreign affairs for 5-year tenure. The President has the right to proclaim laws and ordinances passed by the National Assembly and Standing Committee. The President is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Force and the Chairman of the Council of Defense and Security. In foreign affairs, the President has the authority to appoint ambassadors to sign international agreements and treaties. The President appoints and dismisses the Prime Minister and the members of government on basis of resolutions of the National Assembly or its Standing Committee. The government is the highest executive organ of the state. The Prime Minister is the leader of the government. The Prime Minister is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the government. Vietnamese government currently has 20 ministries and 6 ministerial level bodies. Vietnam has 59 provinces and 5 cities directly under central authority, including Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Hải Phòng, Da Nang, and Cần Thơ. People's Council of various administrative levels are elected by the population of the locality. People's Council are responsible for the supervision of the implementation of the laws, policies, and the tasks of the local level, for taking decisions on social economic development programs and budget. As can be seen from political perspective, we can see that the Vietnamese government is stable with low to zero probability of revolutions or changes. Secondly, judiciary is controlled by the government. Vietnam is also the country with high corruption rate. It is standing 116 out of 176 countries. Vietnam also was ranked 99 out of 189 countries in the World Bank's 2014 Doing Business report. Next, Vietnam's planning system is still based on a vertical top-down approach under the unitary system. Finally, Power Master Plan calls for diversification, balanced development, and liberalization in energy sector. However, market liberalization still remains the biggest issue. In terms of international relations, at present, Vietnam has established diplomatic relations with 168 countries, and it has economic and trading relations with about 165 countries. Vietnam joined the United Nations in 1977. Vietnam became an official member of Association of Southeast Asian Nations in 1995, has concluded a cooperation agreement with European Community. Relationships with multinational financial institutions such as World Bank, International Monetary Fund, the Asian Development Bank (ADB) have been re-established. Vietnam has been participating in the ASEAN Free Trade Area after in 1996 and became a member of Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum (APEC) in 1998. Vietnam became an official member of the World Trade Organization on the 11th of January 2007. In January 2008, country started a 2-year term as an elected non-permanent member of the United Security Council. Vietnam signed the bilateral trade agreement with the United States in 2000. Besides aspects of international trade, the BTA covers a variety of other areas including intellectual property rights, trade in service, development of investment relations, business facilitation, and the obligation to ensure transparency of the laws and regulations. The BTA essentially constitutes a commitment by both countries to open their markets to each other. In terms of infrastructure, the highway system in Vietnam consists of over 200,000 km network, including over 10,000 bridges. However, road conditions are not ideal. Less than half of the national highways have 2 lanes or more. In addition, road congestion is increasing in major cities. In recent years, the government has mobilized a significantly large amount of capital to upgrade the highway system with financial support from international lending agencies. In railway, the rail network consists of about 2,600 km from single track line covering several routes. There are about 260 stations in the network. The longest and most important route is Hanoi-Ho Chi Minh City Line, which stretches for 1,730 km. This line is now serviced by an express train, which makes the journey is about 29 hours. The lines connecting Vietnam to China were reopened a few years ago. Inland waterways. Often overlooked by foreign investors, the inland waterway system offers a cheap, flexible mode of transport. Vietnam has more than 2,300 rivers and canals with a total length of 198,000 km. Currently, the inland waterway has a system of over 61,000 km. The 2 major inland waterway systems serve as the major transportation outlets. The first major inland waterway system is in the Red River area in the north, which stretches for about 2,500 km. Along this system, there are 5 main ports, of which Hanoi is the largest. The second major inland waterway extends 4,500 km along the Mekong River and its tributaries in the south and boasts about 30 ports, including Ho Chi Minh City. In the airports and civil aviation, there are 3 international airports, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang. Currently, the government has significantly upgraded international airports to handle the increase in the volume of traffic associated with Vietnam's economy. The new international terminal of the Tân Sơn Nhất Airport in Ho Chi Minh City, capable of handling up to 1 million passengers a year, was opened in December 2007. Nội Bài Airport in Hanoi was upgraded in last and completed for operation in 2002. Construction of the second terminal to start in October 2008 and completed in 2 years. 4 new international airports was planned to be constructed in Phú Quốc, Đồng Nai, and Lào Cai, Quảng Ninh provinces. Preparations for the new Long Thanh International Airport, 40 kilometers from Ho Chi Minh City in Đồng Nai province, is underway. The airport was scheduled to open in 2010, and by 2015 it was expanded to reach an annual transportation capacity of 80 to 1 million passengers, becoming one of the biggest airports in the region. In addition, there are 16 other domestic airports around the country. In the economy of Vietnam, Vietnam has been carrying out the economic reforms in 1986 under the renovation policy, focusing on market-oriented economic management. It has included restructuring to build a multi-sector economy, financial, monetary and administrative reform, and the development of external economic relations. One of the most important aspects of economic reform in Vietnam has been encouragement of domestic and foreign private investment. Since 1986, Vietnam has recorded important achievements in social, economic fields, and Vietnam has become one of the fastest growing economies in the world, averaging around 8.4% annual gross domestic product growth from 1990 to 1997, 7.5% from 2000 to 2006, and 8.5% in 2007. The achievements in the economy during the past few years include the following highlights. In terms of agriculture or aquaculture, they are one of the base for Vietnam's social economic stabilization. This industry has continued to maintain its relatively good development with annual growth rate of over 3.8% over the past 5 years. This has helped contribute to the maintenance of social economic stability and the provision of improved support to the hunger eradication and alleviation and employment generation programs. The cropping structure has also changed and agricultural productivity has increased in many regions. In recent years, aquaculture has increased rapidly and in 2007 accounted for 23% of total value of agricultural production. Export income from aquatic products has also been increasing considerably, reaching 3.8 billion USD in 2007. In terms of industry sector, we can see that difficulties and challenges have been overcome, bringing about positive results. The industrial growth rate averaged 17% over the last 5 years. In 2007, industrial production value increased by 17%, with a growth rate in private businesses of 20%. That is attributed to increasing policies and positive impacts of the former enterprise law. The production capacity has risen several industries, resulting in increased exports. The industrial structure has changed considerably. By 2005, mining, particularly the extraction of oil and gas industry, accounted for 11% of the total value of industrial production. A large number of specialized industrial zones utilizing modern production technologies have been developed. Manufacturing accounted for 83% of industrial production, of which the food processing industry accounted for 20.6%, power supply and distribution 5.2%, and water supply accounted for 5.6%. In terms of service sector, it has maintained its operation despite various difficulties and has improved its quality, meeting the demands of economic growth and people. Trade has been growing relatively well. Markets are more open and transparent with the participation of all economic sectors. Business methods have become more diversified, and there has been an annual average increase about 20% in total retail sales. The progress has been recorded in the tourist industry. The numerous tourist attractions have been built, upgraded, and renovated. The types of tourism have diversified, resulting in a continuous increase in tourism revenue. In addition to business conferences, very notably, Vietnam hosted the APEC Summit in November 2006. International arrivals in 2007 were estimated at 4.23 million, up by 18% against 2006. Post and telecommunication services have developed rapidly. The basic telecommunications network has been modernized. During 2007, the number of telephone subscribers grew by 9.8 million, reaching over 27.8 million. The mobile sector is particularly vibrant, with a number of ambitious local companies competing for subscribers. During the period 2002-2007, total export revenue increased by 23% per year. Both the composition and quality of export have improved significantly. The proportion of industrial products have risen considerably. The five biggest export categories are oil, textiles, footwear, seafood, and food products. During the same period, the total imports have increased by 25.5% per year. Exports reached 48.4 billion US dollar in 2007, an increase of 21% compared to 2006. However, due to considerable imports of plant, equipment, materials used for industrialization and modernization process, and for foreign investment projects, the trade deficit has increased over the past 3 years. Imports in 2007 reached 60 billion US dollars. Trading relations with foreign countries, especially other countries in the region, have expanded. In 2007, the biggest regions and countries buying from Vietnam were America, 10 billion US dollars, European Union, 8.7 billion, ASEAN, 8 billion, Japan, 5.5 billion, and China, 3.2 billion US dollars. GDP of Vietnam was worth 141.67 billion US dollars in 2012. The gross domestic product increased by 4.96% in 2014 compared with the same period 2013. GDP annual growth rate was 6.51% on average from 2000 until 2014. It reached its highest level in the end 2007 and was recorded at least 3.12% in the beginning of 2009. Slow global growth and the lack of satisfactory structural reforms have led to an economic slowdown. Vietnam's economy is experiencing its longest period of moderate growth since the beginning of economic reforms in the late 1980s. GDP growth slowed to 5.2% in 2012 from 6.2% in 2011 and 6.4% in 2010. Approximately 20,000 businesses stopped their business permanently for a while in 2013. It is calculated as 10.5% increase in the period of 1 year. New 39,000 businesses were registered in the same period. The forecast expects the higher growth for 2014. For example, the Economist Intelligence Unit expects GDP annual growth to rise to 5.8 in 2014. Services, which comprise of 43% of total input, rose to 6.6% in 2013 compared to previous year. Industry and construction, which mean 38% of economy, increased 5.4% in 2013. Lastly, agriculture, fishing, and forestry make up 22% of GDP. Public spending in Vietnam is 31% of total input. Government debt is over half of gross domestic income. The overall tax rate is equivalent to 21% of domestic economy. Vietnam is one of the top countries that have the lowest unemployment rates. High wage and expensive life has made companies outsource to neighboring states instead of China. In the past 20 years, the increase in education level of Vietnamese people helped them to find jobs in high-end jobs rather than in the agriculture sector. This boosted fast economic development and reduced poverty. However, Vietnam has vulnerable employment problem which grew more in late 2013. Informal employment moved up by 2.2% in the end 2013. Hence, vulnerable employment in Vietnam was equivalent to 62.1% of total employment during the same period. In the banking system, financial liberalization in Vietnam has sped up from the early 1990s. The financial system in general and the banking system in particular have achieved a lot of progress. These 20 years of progress have proved that the banking system has been transferring from one tier system into a two-tier system which allowed all households to compete fairly and effectively. And the improvements in the banking sector are mainly derived from cooperative activities and initiatives of IMF and WTO via Vietnamese government. Within the past 15 to 20 years, the banking system in Vietnam developed not only in the number of banking institutions, but also in the share of the banking sector in Vietnamese economy, in the amount of credits for the economy, and the amount of other banking services as well. A consequence of that is the amount of capital mobilized through the banking sector was around 1.800 trillion Vietnamese đồng, nearly 30% up to compared to early 1990s. Despite the fact that the banking system in Vietnam did a lot to restrict government intervention and open it to foreign financial institutions, still more reforms to further develop and restructure it are needed in order to finance the current and future capital needs of the economy. Dollar, the holding of foreign currency denominated assets by local residents, is a common feature in developing and transition economies. Thus, Vietnam was also faced up with the first stage of dollarization in the 1960s as a result of the U.S. military intervention. A second stage followed in 1988-1989 during the transition period toward the market-oriented economy. Generally speaking, dollar affected several macroeconomic indicators such as exchange rates, which led to depreciation of Vietnam dollars and inflation. The Vietnamese government in the early 1990s adopted numerous monetary policies in order to reduce dollar's financial strength in the country, such as selling huge amounts of dollars in foreign exchange market, which resulted with appreciation of Vietnam dollars in short term. Monetary policies actually brought the expected positive result. The inflation rate went down from 350% in 1994 to 35% in 1998. Together with the control of monetary expansion, Vietnamese government successfully put into practice a policy of pegging the Vietnam dollars to the foreign currencies for the next 10 years. According to the analysts and Vietnam officers, within the period of 3 to 4 years, the state economy and financial system overall could recover from 2008 crisis so that the economy had an inflation rate lower than 10% from 2010 to 2012. On the other hand, re-emerged inflation did not harm significantly to depreciation figures in the financial system. The depreciation rate in 2008 to 2012 had experienced a minor climb at 1.5%, which was lower than than in 2003-2006. Nowadays, Vietnamese government pursues a strict regulations and policies to keep stable exchange rates and inflation rate lower than 7% per annum by pushing down export of some industrial goods and restricting foreign currency inflows into the economy. Overall, starting from 2009, the Vietnamese government has achieved a 6.8% inflation rate per annum, on average, depreciation rate of 3%, and general exchange rates on Vietnam dollars US dollars fluctuate between 0.7% to 1.3%, which makes local and foreign investors more accessible to financial resources with less risk. From looking overall at Vietnamese economy, we have some recommendations for potential investors in Vietnam. Firstly, starting, operating, and closing business are subject to a number of regulations. It takes 34 days and 10 procedures to start a business, according to World Bank data. Secondly, Vietnamese Ministry of Planning and Investment is in charge of recommendations on sectors and regions requiring investment. Investing in Vietnam for the first time, foreign investors must have investment projects and follow the formal procedures in order to be granted a certificate of investment registration. Next, it is highly recommended to find the right local partner to facilitate the investment procedures and obtain the appropriate certificates. Then, the encouraged sectors for investment include some fields like industrial zones, export processing zones, high-tech zones, and economic zones. Some conditions for FDIs are not clearly defined in the laws of the country, so the conditions are sometimes unclear. Moreover, Vietnamese courts are only partially independent. Judicial authorities of the country are subordinate to the Central Party of Vietnam, which controls court at all levels. Finally, the investor should build and keep strong positive ties with the local government, senior level government officers, and community is very essential.